And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
Heather Mae, who was on last week to talk about her NDE after her heart stopped, returns for part 2 to answer some more questions about her experience, as well as to tell about her UFO and ET contact that has happened after her NDE. Heather, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's really is amazing to be here. I'm very grateful for the platform that you provide and your your viewers who are curious and might be able to relate to a little bit of my experiences. So thank you.
Well, we talk a lot about ETs a lot on here, just like UFOs. And I personally believe that something happens to a person after their NDE, which either increases their awareness and they start seeing the UFOs, and or it changes something within them energetically where the UFOs can spot them on the ground compared to the rest of us. So if you
I
don't
do
mind,
wonder.
let's start
Yeah.
with the very first time you saw something and what happened.
The very first time I saw something was between ages 12 and 13. That was a huge ship of some kind, and it took up about 2 blocks. I lived, in the burbs, and it took up about 2 blocks, and I was with my little boyfriend at the time. And I had pointed up because there was some strange light formation at the time. But what I really noticed about it was because whatever it was, I couldn't see the stars in the place it was taking up, so that caught my attention. But there was kind of a really strange sequence of lighting that happened, and it was, from what I could see, it kind of was sort of oval, sort of. But there was 2 lights, then somewhere one light, and then 2 lights, and then it was 2, and then it was 3, and then it was 2. So I don't know if there was some kind of code going on. I couldn't figure it out, but it was just very odd, and it was silent, and we had very large trees, but not even the leaves were moving. And we stared at it for a while, and then I had gone into the house to get my mom, but of course she was reading a book, so that was the last thing she wanted to come out and look at. What I said was something really strange in the sky. And then I went back outside, and it suddenly just was gone. Just very quickly, just gone. There was no sound, absolutely nothing. And it has stuck with me forever. Just seeing that, Yeah, it was really quite something.
I had one guest that was under a ship similar to yours, and he felt like the lights were actually like plasma or something, kind of like burning or dripping from the lights. Would you say it was like that, or would you say it was more like light bulbs?
That's a really great question. I'm not 100% sure. I just it was very fast, and um it altered, from 2 to 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 2. Like, it was just very strange. I couldn't figure it out, actually.
Mm.
And then there was no lights. But it was still there because I couldn't see the stars in the sky and all that area that it was taking up, and then it was just gone. So I really don't know. I honestly don't know.
Mhm. Now, this happened before your NDE, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, can we fast forward now to your first contact after your NDE?
Ah, yeah. By time I was released from the hospital, so on the 31st day I was released from the hospital, and I was home for about maybe 2 weeks at best. And I had some really strange experience. Uh, from what I understood 10 years later, it was a Kundalini experience, but it was quite kind of violent in the sense of I was shaking all over the bed. I had gone to sleep. I was really quite unwell, for a long time after my hospital stay and everything. And all I could see was the sun. It was like this blinding yellow sun. And even though I checked, my eyes were open, but I couldn't see anything else. And the weirdest thing that happened there was there were, I don't know, I got somehow transported. I don't know how this happened, but I was on in the sun itself. And there were there beings that lived there. And I couldn't understand how I didn't burn up. And they were beings that were alive. Um, Within the sun, I couldn't really understand it. It was well beyond my realm of comprehension. And then it was over as quickly as it started, and I was in my bed and really terrified, actually, because I did not understand what had just happened there. And that was my very first experience with some type of beings. There was more than one, and uh, they had come towards me. It wasn't like I was terrified of them. I was just really confused with how I didn't disintegrate immediately. It didn't make any sense to me. How could I be on the sun? Yeah, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. And that one time with that experience. So about 2 weeks or just, in around that time with that type of experience.
You said that you were having a Kundalini experience. Were you meditating or doing something that caused it, or it just happened from sleep?
It just actually happened. I had started to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden, and it was like a roar of almost like a roar of energy coming um, through my body from the base, basically. And it was it was just absolutely unbelievable. What with that is I was vibrating and bouncing all over the bed, and all I could see was the sun. It With my eyes open, it was that color, that yellow, throughout. That was absolutely all I could see with the and I didn't discover till 10 years later. I was really desperate to talk to somebody about it, but it took me 10 years to find somebody who said, "Oh, you had a spontaneous Kundalini experience." And I was like, "Oh,
When you
okay."
when you
Yeah.
first saw the sun, were you looking at it like from a distance, like from space, and then you moved from there to inside the sun?
No, it was just like I guess it was just like I was in it, because everything there was no viewpoint really. It was just full on. Everywhere I had looked was just incredible sun, like sunshine. Incredible. Yeah.
Do you remember what those beings look like?
Yeah. They were kind of like electrified in a sense, you know. It was very interesting. They had a shape, a basic shape to them. Basic, very basic. It seemed to me that their legs, their arms were kind of lanky, but they were so electrified with energy. It was just really, really incredible. And of course, then there was my confusion about the whole thing. How can I be in or on the sun?
Did they
Yeah.
try to communicate with you in any way?
They did come towards me. but I do not recall any form of communication or anything. And then I was like very quickly back in my bed, in my own, I guess, reality, that I'm me and I'm in my bed and in my home. And after that, I was actually afraid to go to sleep after, because I was afraid for it to happen again because I didn't know what it was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
get the feeling that you weren't supposed to be there or you were, especially from those beings?
I guess if anything, I had the feeling that they were surprised I was there. And it was only a feeling, an interpretation, and that was kind of it. It was very, very quick in, quick exit. Yeah, it was fast, very fast.
What was your next experience after that? And when did it happen?
Well, there was a series of things that happened. It was later. I had moved to a rural area, probably about a year and a half after my NDE, and I was, I guess, in a sense, kind of haunted by crystal skulls. And there was no internet. I lived in a very rural area, so there was no library, there was nothing. And so they were large crystal skulls, and I would sleepwalk trying to locate these crystal skulls. So sometimes I was found by my then husband, with having everything out of the closet, and I'm in it because for me, it seemed like I was elsewhere. I was in a cave and I was trying to locate this specific crystal skull. And this happened over and over and over again. Sometimes I would sort of come to consciousness and I would hit the wall of my bedroom and say, no, you're in your home. You are not somewhere else on the planet, this planet. You're not in. Sometimes it felt like I was somewhere underground in Mexico, or it was Peru, or there's all these places. And this was around the time of 1997. And I was learning about the formation of these crystal skulls once they were all found, and especially the 13th, which is the master skull. And there's a very specific formation to occur for the raising of the vibration for mankind. We haven't had it yet.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it
Uh,
hasn't occurred yet, but it's coming. Yeah.
did you ever make the connection why you were looking for these skulls?
It was something to do with there was a part of me on a soul level, from what I understood, that knew the location of all of the skulls. And it was coming time to bring them together. A lot of them were found over those years by other people, um, but there's this master skull that I know some people say they have found it, but uh, I don't feel that yet.
And
There's
so,
12. The 13th is not.
and again, so once the 13th is found, what will happen?
There's a very, very specific formation. So the 13th skull is the master skull that creates this formation of energy that is then brought forward for all of mankind. And it's to raise our conscious awareness.
In your waking hours, do you ever sit around and try to figure out where it is?
Um, I have. I have. I'm not 100% sure on that one. It has not been revealed to me. Maybe there's somebody else out there, it has been, but it has not been revealed to me. All the other ones were, it through a period of time, and I would say maybe a 2-year time period. But this sleepwalking and trying to find them, and each skull has a very specific frequency within it, that is to be released in with the other group. Yeah, it's very interesting in how it works.
Do you think it's possible that it has been found by someone or some group that is keeping it hidden so we don't raise our consciousness?
And that's entirely possible. I mean, I could not say yes or no. I just know I do not know of its whereabouts. All these skulls have been in very, very safe, secret keeping. So it's possible. The only thing that I really, truly did understand was they will all come together. They really will all come together. Um, and they're not from this plane.
Would you say that they're not human skulls?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
They look like
Yes.
alien skulls?
Some of them have slightly different formations to them. Uh, they they have different tones to them. They have information within them. Um, they kind of are shaped as if it could be our skull, but it's way bigger. It's way bigger.
Have you ever seen or had contact with what most people call the gray alien?
Mm, yes,
Can you tell us about that?
I have. There's the little grays, I call them. They're smaller. Um, I would say about 3 to maybe 3.5 feet. I don't know ever how this transition stuff happened. This was on the moon, um, when I was on the moon. And the little grays had come out. They're kind of, they're warm and kind of funny in a sense, you know. And uh, they all surrounded me, and why I was there is because I knew that there was passageways into the moon inside it. Um, but I was not allowed to be there. I was not allowed to be going inside.
Let me stop you because I should have stopped
Yeah.
you earlier. How did you get there in the first place?
It was somehow I started just traveling myself to other places. And I would go to bed at night, and um, I wouldn't even be really asleep, you know, just before sleep. And I would find myself on like Mars, you know, and I don't really know if it was just astral travel or how this actually happened. It was more than one time, with the little grays. And my curiosity was I could see that there was an entrance way, and that there's tall grays in there. There are other beings within living inside somehow the moon. Um, there had always seemed to me, I don't even know how I had the knowledge. I don't know if it was a download from my NDE, just knowing that there are like interplanetary living spaces, and there are multitudes of beings there, including somehow us.
Now, when you were there, did you also feel or get the impression that you weren't supposed to be there?
Yeah, yeah. They actually they had come out uh, to halt me as far as I had gotten. Um, because I was walking towards this area. It's almost like there's an entrance way. It's sort of kind of mountainous, but there's an entrance way there. And they had stopped me. How long? How far away from that? I would say maybe 200 yards. They had stopped me from there, and I was not to go any further. And so that was the end of that. But I had gone several times, and it was always the same experience. I was not to go any further.
What did you see on Mars?
Ah, just that entranceway. It's very obscure, and it's not as I know because I live close to the Rocky Mountains. It was sort of mountainous, sort of. And there's an entranceway there that's very, very obscure. And things can go in and out that way. Yeah. And
It,
yeah, that's all I know about it. Sorry. Yeah.
when you saw people there, as well as the Greys, would you think they were humans or some version of superhuman beings?
With the download that I had received, it seemed like they were human, as some type of agreement in a galactic group, which included people, not super people, but people, and all kinds of other beings from other dimensions, galaxies, um, that actually are there as a large group that somehow works together.
Have you ever seen super people anywhere else?
I did have the super people. I called them the super people because I didn't know what to call them. They're created, and I don't know who created them. They're perfect in every way. Um, they all have the same interesting kind of suit. Um, they are all they're male and female. You can tell that they're a combination of human, but part of me over the decades have wondered if they're a form of AI. I'm not really sure. They didn't seem to really be at the best interests of us people. And a matter of fact, I have had the consecutive dream about them for over 25 years.
When you say
It's a dream
consecutive, does that mean it's a continuation of the dreams or is the same dream over and over?
over and over and over and over. They have the ability to suddenly come into a place as a group and to leave as a group as well. They are extremely smart. They all kind of look the same in a way. Um, Not really defined, really male, female, not really defined. Um, and we people are actually running from them. So it's a concerning dream. It kind of the dream was dormant for about maybe 5 years, but I started having it again 2 years ago.
How often do you have the dream?
At one point in time, it was several times a week, several times a month, and recently I've had it over the 2 year span. I don't know, it could have been a dozen or more times because I had told my partner Gary, I said, I'm starting to have that dream again about what I call the super people, and it's very concerning for me. It's very concerning. They're not good for us.
I've had a couple guests talk about that there are human alien hybrids underground that they're waiting to release. Does that make any sense to you from what you've seen?
I have experienced again being underground. There's tunnel systems and whatnot, but these were reptilian beings. I actually found them quite terrifying. I found it very difficult to not be constantly going there. It's like I was not under my own empowerment, if that makes any sense. Um, they're harsh and they're cold and unfriendly. And to me, they were very absolutely terrifying. And the underground system that they have, I didn't get to see if, there's hybrids or anything there. I found my terror of them was just all encompassing. Um, they're very harsh group. Um, and like I said, it seemed like I had no control in going there or not. I didn't want to be there. Believe it, I did not want to be there, but it seemed like I would be there sometimes night after night after night. And I really don't know why. I remember at some point in time I was told that I'm to know. I'm to know different species. I'm to understand different species. It's the awareness. And I didn't really want to accept that, to be honest with you. Didn't really want to accept that. It's kind of like it's kind of like other beings, there was other time periods where I don't know where I was, but I was on a table. It seemed like it was a steel table. And oddly enough, my father was on another one, but there was other people there. And we're all on these tables. And I had some awareness. I don't know where it was, but when I looked over at the other people, they seemed like they were sleeping. Even when I looked at my father, it seemed like his eyes were closed. It seemed like he was sleeping, and I was the only one in a state of panic. And there were things that went on there that I found very scary. Um, Certainly high buzzing noises. Um, Sometimes it looked like a very minuscule little drill. There were, one of them coming towards my eye. I remember that. Uh, I remember they were they were the big grays, and their eyes sit different, slightly different. Um, I even have, I don't know if you can see it or not, but yeah, this is one of the few drawings I do have left from my ex at the time who destroyed all my documents. Um, uh, their eyes reflect, sort of reflect me, but yet there was a depth to them. Um, and no matter what, I was absolutely terrified. One of these experiences was when I saw the babies. And the babies were kind of like in a capsule of what I thought was water. It was a fluid. And there were all kinds of them, to be honest with you. Some of them looked kind of more like human babies. Some of them didn't look right. And I know that sounds terrible, what's right and wrong, but not like us, exactly. Um, in my headspace at the time, it was like, oh, well, why do some of them look like that? So opposite to any human baby. Some of them had, kind of different shaped heads. Some of them were kind of more cone shaped. Some of them had bulgy eyes. Some of them didn't, you know, um, and they were just in this fluid. And I found that shocking, to be quite frank with you, shocking. I did wonder what was happening with all of us being there, really what was going on. I did not have an understanding of it. This happened several times to me.
Do you think it's possible that your own eggs have been harvested and you have alien hybrid children out there?
Well, simply from some of the procedures, I wouldn't even be surprised. I don't know for a fact, but there was just some pretty strange medical stuff kind of going on with all of us there. Um, yeah, and sometimes, well, I don't know if this has anything to do with it or not. I'll just throw it out there. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I had I had one daughter, live, birth and everything. But I had 9 pregnancies, but spontaneous, just gone, spontaneous. Medically proven that I was pregnant, but um, they called it maybe a spontaneous physical abortion, they called it. Doctors, yeah, didn't really understand why I could have one child and then I had 8 to 9 sudden disappearances or miscarriages. Like,
But you didn't really experience a miscarriage symptomatically, do you think?
not all, no, not all. So I don't really understand that. I know there was a period of time, I think it's Dolores Cannon. I really wanted to be hypnotized because I really would like to be able to pick up. I know there's lots of things that have happened. I My awareness is, or some of the memories are not really clear. Not really clear.
Did you ever speak to your father about this and about seeing him, as well? And if so, does
I
he have any memory of it?
No, I had asked him if he believed in um, aliens or other beings in other places. And he said, well, of course, because how could we be the smartest things in the whole entire, universe or, through the galaxies impossible. I had asked him if he ever had any experiences with um, meeting or being somewhere that he couldn't really identify or on a silver kind of stainless steel table um, with any aliens. And he kind of looked at me and he said, "Don't be ridiculous." So that ended the whole thing. You know, I wasn't going to go any further and say, "Well, I did see you." Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
I,
kind of left that alone.
I totally get that. But I wonder if you had. Well, I guess it was enough, maybe, because I was just wondering if he had heard a little bit more. Maybe it would have stimulated his memory. But just you bring it up, I guess, would have been enough.
Yeah, yeah. It was a real reach for me to even do that because I kind of felt that I was kind of on the crazy end with all this anyways, right? So it was, even though it was such a testing of the waters, it was I made sure that I wasn't really outing myself in any way.
Do you have any other drawings of ETs that you can show us?
Um, well, I don't know if you can see it. It's really small.
Now, these drawings are all old from a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. This is
It's a
the
little,
lizard group.
it's a little blurry.
Yeah, it's kind of blurry, hey?
That looks like, I guess you're just showing the head and part of the shoulders.
Yeah, part of the shoulders. It's part of that lizard group. I had written some things down as well. I I don't know. Do you want me to read some of it to you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I have underground lizard group want to infiltrate and reseed with other races. I have government officials are being led under the undergroup. This is the undergroup. Supporting groups will assist us, and I've got a date down, January 2028, possibly 2027.
Wow.
Um,
You know, I think a lot of people out there think that something's going to happen in 2027.
Oh, okay. So that January 2028. I mean, I have that's or 27 around November, December, I guess, because it's getting towards, the end of the year. Um, I've got they need strong, healthy people. Our ailments will be healed. We need to stay strong. That's what I wrote. Yeah, that is what I wrote. I wrote something about a false flag, propaganda. Um, it's really essential about raising the vibration, so that we're not under the influence of propaganda. Apparently, there's 37 million people of us out there who has this information with these dates.
Wow. Do you have any more pictures?
Um, I do. It's kind of odd. It's kind of odd. It's
Well,
very old.
nothing is too odd for our audience.
Okay. It's really hard to see.
Is that like a side view of a head or
Okay,
okay?
so there are beings. I only drew one. Okay, so this is kind of like a U-shaped, almost like a bench platform, U-shaped.
Hmm.
And this is me. I'm standing at some kind of a podium, and I was told as a contract, some contract I had, that I was to share uh, my information of things that were my experiences on the planet. And I have, yes, okay.
All right.
So I
Looks
have
like
this.
Saturn or something.
Yeah, it's Saturn, and there's these other beings. I'd have to turn it this way. They have very, very large heads, kind of oblong. I called them the rainbow people, um, and I have written material, it seems. I dug these up this morning, by the way. Yeah. Um, they're the color of so many different frequencies, these ones. Um, and I'm speaking with them at some type of podium, like I had just shown you. I am. I was asked to show them the things that are going on around in my world, and somehow I raised my hands like this, and there was like a video of some kind of movie, that they could all see, and it was my understanding that I had some kind of agreement to do this with them periodically, to go to this strange space, that all the outside is darkness except for in here is light, is a lot of light. And for me to talk with them and to share and provide my information, which also then leads to the hooded beings. I i found these guys really scary. um, they also stated that I had a contract. They came in droves. The first time I saw them was in 1998 or 99. Um, I was in bed and they were leaning over me, and that's how I woke up. It was absolutely terrifying. Um, I totally freaked out and kind of screamed and told them to go away. All I really wanted to do was run away from them. They actually didn't really leave me alone. They kept coming back. I had, even in my front property, There was a very large group of them. I was so terrified, to be honest with you. I called a friend of mine, dial a friend, you know. And her friend was my friend was Natalie at the time, and I hadn't really shared very much with her. She knew some about my NDE, and I said to her, I'm completely freaking out. And I was freaking out so much that, you know, when your legs turn to jello and you don't think they can hold you anymore. And I said, there's about, you know, 20 plus out there. And what do they want from me? What do they want? Why are they always around? They're scaring the, you know, the hell out of me. And I don't know what they want. And she said, well, why don't you just talk to them? I said, talk to them? Why would I want to do that? I want them to go away, you know? And she said, well, maybe you can talk to one. And she said, I'll stay on the phone, like try to talk to one. So I invited one. And interesting, you don't open the door or anything, they're just suddenly there, you know, they go through walls and everything else. And so there was one. They're quite tall. It reminded me very much of the cosmic board because of the hood. It's a black hood. You don't see any face whatsoever. They're tall. So they seem to me, my father's quite tall, so about 6'5" to 7 feet. And that being told me also, I had an agreement and I'm to live up to my agreement to work with them. I actually, on a conscious level, truly, honestly, have no comprehension of that. I don't have any conscious understanding of that. I had tried to let them know that he, it, not real male, female, just a being, had just continued to say, you have a contract with us to give us information, to share with us, and vice versa. And I told them I wanted to break it. I wanted to break it. I couldn't deal with it. It was too much happening all the time. I was still trying to work through my NDE, never mind, you know, the white brotherhood, never mind the rainbow beings and the tall grays or the short grays, and then the reptilians under the earth, you know, there was just so much going on and I really couldn't deal. I just couldn't deal, you know. So I said, I want that. I want that contract broken. I cannot. I just cannot. I don't even have an understanding.
Do you think it's
Yeah.
possible that you made this or these contracts pre-birth?
I had wondered that because during my NDE, I don't have, it's not like I was told there that I had, oh, don't forget, you know, you have contractual agreements with all kinds of races. I did not receive that information, and if I did, then I quickly forgot it. So it very well could have been because I didn't do it after, and you know what I mean? Yeah, it just didn't make, it doesn't make any other sense to me. And it could be. It could be.
During our
Yeah.
during our previous interview, I think you mentioned that you spent a bunch of lives on Earth, but you very quickly added other places too, or
Hmm.
something like that. Do you
Other
recall?
worlds.
Is that along the line of this ET stuff, you think, or just living in other places?
Well, that would kind of make sense though, wouldn't it? I never really gave it a whole lot of thought, to be honest with you. But yeah, now that we're talking about it, that does make sense because there were other planets. Um, as there were other beings there, just the Crystal City alone, that's a beings there. Not necessarily looking like me, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's entirely possible. That's entirely possible.
While we're on the subject of your NDEs, let me ask you a few other questions. There are a lot of other stories out there. Do you have an opinion of any of the others?
No, I know there's a portion of me that would really like somebody out there to describe maybe some of these beings that I myself have seen, because sometimes you just feel kind of alone with it. Like the rainbow people or the white brotherhood.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. Who are those
called.
people?
They were one of the earlier ones that I had been working with. They were showing me things with regards to healing. They're quite tall, and I asked them what to call them, and they said, "Well, you can call us the White Brotherhood if that you're comfortable with that." Uh, they have sort of like a human form, but they glow white. They glow. They absolutely glow, and they were the not the same beings when I was in the hospital for the second time. It was a shorter near-death experience, but they all came to me around my bed and told me that help was coming because I was quickly dying. And they were uh, tall beings as well. I would I would have called them like angelic, angelic beings.
Do you think that there are other realms out there, including a realm that's like hell?
There are other planets that are harsh, and I don't even know why I know that. Um, where there are large beings, large warring groups. Um, I guess that would be considered hellish. They're warring, but where in the galaxy that is, I don't even know. I don't even know. And this is part of the information that I just kind of would have beamed in.
Did you experience Jesus at all during your NDE or within any of the other realms?
I would say yes. In in form, as a uh, informative guidance, um, not looking like what the churches have, not looking like that. Um, he seemed to be in a white robe and was extremely wise and provided me with information with regards to myself and spirituality and healing, that type of thing. When I was on the other side, there was what I would call a much higher frequency with the gold tones mixed with white, which can I say that was Jesus or God 100%? No, I cannot. I just know that that feel seemed to be a much higher consciousness, much, much higher, what I maybe would consider the all.
I don't know if we covered this last time. And by the way, for people who are watching this for the first time, the link to our previous interview is in the description below. Back to the question. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but did you see visions of the future during your NDE?
It was the wars, like the history of man warring and killing each other. Um, but it was also destruction of the planet in a sense. So there's the fires, which we have been experiencing, unfortunately. Um, Horrendous droughts, then horrendous, monstrous flooding, there's starving people, greed. There's just a lot of greed. There's a lot of unrest. There's a lot of anger. There's, you know, um, people wanting to just be heard and seen. And we just seem to be locked into this capitalism, really locked into it.
It seems that's about what's going on right now.
Right now, yes. So all from the past and, through all the, hundreds of years, um, as we were evolving and evolving, but we were still a warring species, to still having civil wars going on today. Everything, the last of the things that I saw is what we are experiencing right now and will continue to do so, including horrendous storms and earthquakes and tornadoes and a lot of like earthly kind of destruction in that sense because everything is so far out of balance. And
Well, that's maybe why they'll show up in 2027 because we
I
need
was going
help.
to say, I believe it's part of that assistance. Um, I didn't see anything like, nuclear, you know, destruction of the planet. I personally have always felt that the watchers, the helpers of ETs, are not going to allow that to happen simply because it also affects out there as well. Never mind our planet, but it there's the universe, other um, other lives, other ETs. It affects the effects would really ripple out.
In your opinion, why do we come here over and over again?
Because it's all about the soul on a soul level. It's all very nice to be on the other side and you can educate yourself, but really to bring knowledge inward to experience, to wisdom, you must have the experience. Absolutely must have the experience. And as the evolution of the soul occurs, it is not all going to be nice and beautiful. There's some of those lifetimes, yes, but there's also the hardships as well. And when I mean hardships, yes, sometimes it's extraordinarily brutal. This is one of the lower frequency places, not the only one. But the learning environment is extensive here, especially emotionally. It's kind of like, if you want to build a home, are you going to build a home with somebody who's only read about it? Or are you going to want to build a home with somebody who has had a vast amount of experience and wisdom to build your home? Well, of course, as our souls are evolving, it's kind of the same sort of thing. It's because we are experiencing, and we can then choose from there to guide, or to be a guide, or to be one of the helpers, as a, even on an angelic level, not the hierarchy of angels, but we can help in the future if we should decide to do that, for those who are incarnating, and to be their guide. We've had all these experiences, or we can choose to go to another planet and experience something else as well. But even with the hardship, it really is, and it sounds horrendous, but it really is for evolution of the soul. It's all about experiences. That is how we learn, and it's to remember, because we come here and we forget. It's all about the remembering our core self. Really, we are far more than what we believe we are, and it's coming into that alignment um, as we evolve here on the planet or not. We always have choices.
I had a conversation with another guest that our bodies, our physical bodies, are on a different frequency than the ET bodies. And just when our body is in contact with theirs, it creates massive fear within us. And it's not
Yes.
because of we're psychologically afraid, it's just those two frequencies create the fear in the body. Do you agree with that from your
I would
experience?
100% agree with that. Absolutely. Yes, I would agree with that. And not only that, I even thought it might have had to do with that reptilian part of our brain of to struggle to, one, it's fear, survival, fight or flight. But to be presented with something that is so extraordinarily different, and not only that, it is true, their frequency is sometimes you even feel like on a physical level you can't deal with it. It's such a high frequency in comparison. So yeah, I would agree.
Do you think that once a person actually saw or sees an ET in real life and they get over the fact that, oh, they actually are real, then at that point they can kind of learn to control their body when they are in contact? But they first have to get over that initial, realization that they're here.
I would agree, absolutely, because I know with the they didn't know what else to call them. I call them the White Brotherhood. That is exactly how that worked. First, I was in fear, and then they they helped in a sense to um, bring an air of peace around me, and showed me how to raise my frequency, and so that's how we could um, communicate. That's all here, of course. Communicate, telepathy. Yeah, and I agree.
I don't think we talked about this last time, but you're also an intuitive energy reader, practitioner, and instructor. Did you get all that ability from your NDE?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Um, okay, when I was little, quite little, I was intuitive. Absolutely. I used to see things with people. I little running movies running above their heads. Of what they had experienced maybe just before they arrived at my parents' house or something like that. I never questioned it. I just thought everybody could do that. I just thought it was normal. There were things that I suddenly knew. Sometimes I could see those who had passed away, not all the time, but sometimes. By time I hit about 13, maybe around 12 and around there, I really threw absolutely everything away. Absolutely, and as I got older too, I mean, there was less and less. I'd say by time I was age 8, I did have a conversation now that I'm talking with you with my aunt, and I did ask her after I had saw that UFO if she believed in aliens. And now that I'm talking with you, I'm remembering this conversation, and she said she did. She said because we are their science project. Yeah, and she was very self-assured about that, and like it was just a matter of fact kind of thing. So other than my father and my aunt, those were the two those were the two people.
Do you think that UFO that you saw when you were young was a ship checking in on you because you did make a prior contract with them?
Huh, what a great question. Yeah, it's very, very likely because I obviously had contract. I can't have all these beings telling me that I have a contractual agreement when I didn't, So yeah, that's actually making sense to me. That's actually making sense. Good question.
Well, after watching this podcast, people still may have more questions for you. If you're
Mm.
up for that, how can they reach out to you?
Can I just say one more thing?
Of
Sorry.
course, of course.
I would like to put this out there because I don't have an answer for it. I would like to know who are the black beings. They are a solid devoid of light beings. I have seen them for years. I saw one as much as last week, and they are a complete human form. But when I see them walking, light doesn't ricochet off them. They're pure black and devoid of all light. I have been seeing them for a long time now. I'd say Oh gosh, probably not long after my NDE. If I tell them to go away, they will. But if they notice that I can see them, they start to walk towards me. And they don't communicate. They don't communicate with me. Maybe the frequency's not there. I don't know. But if I tell them to back off, they will back off, of a comfortable space. But I don't know who they are. I've tried looking them up on even the internet. I don't know anything about them. Maybe somebody else has experienced them before. Have you heard of them before?
Well, the only thing that comes to mind are the shadow people, but I'm not sure if that's what is being descripted like you're saying it is. Have you heard of those?
I've heard of them, but they are well more than a shadow. They are like abyss black, totally devoid of light, totally, completely.
Like absorbing all the light, so
Yeah,
there's nothing left but just blackness.
exactly.
But they are human shaped.
Human shaped. They're not really tall. I would say maybe 5 feet.
Do you think it's possible that they're wearing some sort of suit that does that?
I have wondered that. I have absolutely wondered that. Yes, and that, and I wonder why they're walking around, and then I wonder why when I notice them, I can't be the only one that they start to come forward. So maybe they're curious too. I don't know.
Is it
Yeah,
possible that to the rest of us they would be invisible?
hmm, that is very, very possible. Very, very possible. Yeah.
Again, maybe your awareness changed in some way from your NDE that you can see them when everybody else can't.
That's very possible because there was one other experience that I wanted to put out there. I guess you could edit it out if you want. I was driving down the highway and it almost seemed like there were these ETs in a human suit. Sounds crazy. Uh, but they revealed themselves to me. The human suit kind of went translucent for a moment, and I could see these ETs within. I cannot say they were actually actual grays. I don't know what species they were. They just kind of had the round eyes, more round but kind of bony heads in a sense. Um, yeah, in the car, and I thought, wow, if that can happen, how many of the people that we're kind of looking around at are actually people? That was one of my questions.
With all these experiences that you have had, how do you hold it together?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, sometimes I didn't hold it together very well. Sometimes because I really was completely freaking out. Um, the the experiences on the table, absolutely freaking out. Really wished I wasn't there as many times as I was. The the taller, the little grays, they were okay. What I call the rainbow people, or the ones that live in the sun. I was okay with all of them. Uh, my my guides. Sometimes I have wondered how ET-ish are they really? you know, they've given me provided me with a lot of support, and some of them are just light. They're just light. So it's not that I am completely resistant. I'm just resistant to the ones that I haven't had the control to say, I don't want to be here, or why am I here again? Those were the time periods where I really thought I was desperate for some help. I really wanted somebody to help me. I remember contacting MUFON at some point in time in 99 or 2000. They used to go and be on Pal Talk at the time. And I tried, I really wanted to connect with somebody. I really wanted some help, but it didn't work out. So I just try to deal with things as best as I can. And thankfully, lizard the lizard dudes, and the going to and being on the metal tables, that finally ended, and then I was just left with more of the kinder ones who were more helpful. So it was hard.
Well, if we get back to my earlier question, if people want to reach out to you, are you still up for that? And if so, how do they contact you?
It is with info at Heather Mae, MAE, all one word, .ca.
Well, before we finish up, is there any way you can make a positive comment about the ETs?
I do sincerely believe that they are our helpers. Sometimes, yeah, I certainly believe they are us in another form. That they provide us with information and aid. I think they have saved us from near misses of all kinds of things, and to not be afraid. And I really do feel that they will be revealed definitely in our lifetime, definitely. And to not buy into the propaganda and the fear that will be put out there. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. Yeah.
Heather, thank you.
They're good species.
Heather, thank you for that. And thank you again for coming back and being my guest.
I really appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you very much, because this is the first time I've ever talked about this. I was very nervous at first, as you know, and yeah, just kind of putting it out there, totally outed myself now, and with grace and humility, I thank you very much, and everybody watching.
Thank you. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.